Hey, this is Alex Mejias. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what you're about to watch. This is a seminar that I gave recently on understanding NFTs. It's a brief technical overview and a history of and the NFT space, and it also talks about some of the legal issues currently surrounding NFTs. I hope that it's really helpful. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or if you'd like to learn more about some of the legal issues, or if you're working on an NFT project, we would love to hear from you. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video so that you can stay up to date on any upcoming videos that we release here. And we will try to continue to add seminars and other types of videos as we can crank them out. Hope you enjoy, and we'll talk to you soon. So welcome. My name is Alex Mejias. This is an Understanding NFTs seminar. And really the goal of today is to provide an overview, a technical overview, to walk through some of the different NFT projects that are out there right now. Frankly, this is an area that is exploding at the moment. And so by no means will we cover all of the different projects that are out there. These take on all different types of shapes and sizes. And then we will, in addition to kind of doing a brief review of the projects out there, we'll also talk about the legal issues surrounding NFTs, sort of from a crypto lawyer's perspective, and then we'll close out with any Q&A. However, as we are going, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to ask those questions either by raising your hand or putting them in the chat, and I will try to address them as we go. So let's get started. So today's agenda, like I said, is just do some introduction, background, some technical overviews and examples, and a walkthrough, legal overview, and then a Q&A. So just a quick introduction to me. I've been involved in crypto for about 6 years. Mostly got interested from like a hobby perspective and just a love for technology, and sort of fell down the rabbit hole around 2015, 2016, when I bought some Bitcoin and a little mining contract. I heard about Ethereum through sort of the music world and got involved with that. In 2017, I got a little bit more involved in the local community here, and I was helping startups. At that time, if you remember, there was ICOs were sort of the big thing, the big craze at that time. So I did a lot of mostly telling people to not do what they were trying to do if they wanted to avoid the SEC cracking down on them. And then in 2018, I launched a solo practice designed to serve folks in the crypto industry. And you know, over time, we've sort of expanded, grown a little bit. And in 2020, we rebranded to James River Law. And so our firm is a business and technology firm with a focus on crypto and intellectual property, and then we added estate planning because that was an issue that we saw, particularly in the area of crypto, where there was a gap and a huge need for folks who have crypto, either that are custodying crypto themselves and want to make sure that they leave it to their kids or their heirs, or who have some issues where they need to get access to cryptocurrency within the context of estate planning. So that's a little bit about us. We're going to talk mostly about Ethereum today. I'm assuming at this point that if you're on this, you have a basic understanding of sort of like how blockchain works and how Ethereum works. I could see at least one of you, it looks like you have an NFT as your avatar. So I'm hoping that this first part we won't really have to spend a whole lot of time on, but if you have questions, please ask them. Ethereum really was the first public blockchain on top of which NFTs were launched, and so that's why I want to talk a little bit about Ethereum today, specifically as we think about a technical overview of NFTs. But there are, and I'll get to this later, other blockchains where NFTs have also lived and where they live currently. But I just want to give a quick overview of Ethereum, and I think that will sort of help lay the foundation for your understanding of how these things work. So basically, Ethereum was launched in 2015, about 5 years after Bitcoin. And really the goal of Ethereum was to create a platform on top of which other projects could live, decentralized apps, which are apps that are basically run through the use of smart contracts, which we'll get into, and also other tokens. So whereas Bitcoin is a public blockchain, it's a network that has just one token, and it's only used for currency. Ethereum it functions as a platform, and it has a native currency, ETH, that is really used to pay for the use of the Ethereum blockchain and the network. And so the goal was to be able to launch applications and tokens on top of Ethereum, and that's exactly what happened. And so much of the 2017 ICO boom were people launching applications on top of Ethereum through the use of smart contracts. So smart contracts are basically exactly what they sound like. They are code, like essentially programs that you can use and launch onto the Ethereum blockchain that execute certain functions. And so you can create a token using a smart contract. You can create an app using one or more smart contracts, but it's essentially a way to launch programs on top of Ethereum. And part of the thing that we're going to talk about now are token standards. So early on, as an open source project, developers would create these Ethereum improvement proposals, which were basically upgrades to the system. There was a lot of different types of proposals that were ways of enhancing the Ethereum blockchain or adding new functionality to the Ethereum blockchain. And one type of EIP was what's called an ERC, which technically stands for Ethereum Request for Comment. But really the ERC is just sort of like a template. It's a function that sort of gives you a starting place and creates sort of like a basic outline for what your token can be. And so different people would create these essentially templates, and they would release them into the community. And if enough people accepted them, they were integrated into the Ethereum source code. And so one of the first token standards was called ERC20, and this is the most common token. And there are probably thousands of ERC20 tokens out there. Some of the big ones, USDT, which is called Tether. That's like a stable coin, a Link, 0x. These are more like what are called like utility coins, where there are applications, decentralized apps that use these tokens as a part of their system. And an ERC20 token is fungible, which means they're exchangeable. So they're like Bitcoin or cash that like you can exchange one token for another. There's no real difference between the two tokens, and that's why. And it's a very short set of standards, maybe 8 lines of code where you just specify the name of the token, the supply of the token, and then you add a few more rules, and then you pay your fee to launch that smart contract onto the Ethereum network, and you have a token. And there are actually lots of sites out there where you can use and generate your own ERC20 token. As long as you can pay for it, you can launch it. Over time, more of these different types of token standards were created. And the one that many people on Ethereum now use is called the ERC721. And this is for a non-fungible token. And so a non-fungible token means that it's not interchangeable, that the token itself is a unique token, and there's no other tokens that are like it. And so it's not exchangeable. And so the best way to think about a non-fungible token on an ERC 721 is that it's a one of one. So it's like there's only one of that token that will ever be created. And that's what gives it a lot of times its value, because it's rare. It's a singular token. There's another token standard called ERC 1155. And that's a limited series token. So you think of that as like prints, like if there's like a main art piece of artwork and like a painting or something, and then the artist wants to create a limited edition print where we're only going to do, say 20 prints, and they're going to number them. That's what the ERC 1155 standard creates. And these are sort of like the basic standards that are out there. And there are one example, early example was called from a project called Crypto Strikers, which I participated in, and I'll show you, where it was sort of digital image, artwork of soccer players or football players, depending on where you are in the world. And each player would have a certain number of their digital card developed. And so there was a limited series, and each of them had sort of like a serial number. So those are the three main token standards that are used on Ethereum today, but you can create your own. You can, or you can use one of these as sort of a starting place to launch a template. And it's a very similar type of process on all of the other blockchains as well. But when you think about an NFT, sort of at its core, this is sort of the distinction, is that it's either a rare one of one or a limited series token, which is like a coin that sits like on a blockchain. And if you go back to the history, this idea sort of started even on Bitcoin with this idea of sort of colored coins, which were coins that were imbued with some other information that tied them to a separate piece of property, either digital or otherwise. Yeah, this is just sort of reiterating that. So a non-fungible token are basically a unique or limited. And the key with NFTs is that they are linked to a separate piece of digital art, a music file. They could be linked technically to like a physical object in the world, and they carry varying types of rights, and we'll kind of get into that later. But essentially, it's a proof of ownership on the blockchain. So when you see the work of digital art, it's really important to understand that that is not the NFT. That is the art itself. The NFT is your proof of ownership of that work of art on the blockchain. And so it's almost like and this, I didn't come up with this, a digital deed. So when you think about an NFT, it's sort of helpful to think about how like property works, a house works, that when you buy a house, you get the house and you have certain rights to your property. You can, keep people off of your property, you can build on it, you can do different things, but you're also given a deed, and that's a piece of paper that proves that you own that property. And so if you think about the NFT is like that deed. And in the real world, your deed gets recorded in a central location wherever you live. So if you live here in Richmond, Virginia, and you buy a house, you would go to the circuit court and you would record your deed there, and that's where your deed would stay. And so that's sort of the authoritative place to figure out who owns which piece of property. And so with NFTs, the blockchain is that place. It's that authoritative place to show who owns that separate piece of digital property. So that's really one of the most important distinctions to grasp when you want to understand what it is you're getting when you buy an NFT. You're getting the proof of ownership of that digital item and whatever rights the seller of the item gives to you, which we'll get into later. We're going to just give like a super brief lesson of like rewinding the clock. If you see this quantum image, that was the very first NFT, and it's a one of one NFT, and I think right now I think it's worth a couple $1 million, and it was created by a developer who launched it on the on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's sort of changed hands over time, but that was the very first NFT. But the first sort of big NFT projects were CryptoPunks and CryptoKitties. And these were projects that were launched, back in, 2016, 2017, and CryptoKitties in particular kind of broke Ethereum for a while because there was such a high demand. for them. And these two, really what they are algorithmically generated pieces of digital art. So when, for each of these, like for the kitties or the crypto punks, the developers of these would basically have different types of characteristics, like their eyes, their hat, if they had something in their mouth, their feet for the crypto kitties. And they basically created like a large set, thousands of, like, I think 10,000 like different types of combinations of all these features. And when you would mint one of these, it would sort of algorithmically randomize all of these different figures and sort of give you like your character. And the crypto punks are pretty lo-fi, like they're pretty pixelated images, but those are actually worth quite a bit now. I think the cheapest one might be like 400,000 these days. And the crypto kitties, you can see, some of them are not quite as expensive. And so those were some of the early projects in NFTs. But really what we've seen over the last, year has just been sort of unprecedented growth in the NFT space. And it's really kind of moving at a breakneck pace. It started off as sort of these like collectibles that people were just excited about using and being able to display or use as an avatar, and has really kind of grown now to encompass rare, like very rare digital one-of-a-kind art. People use it for fundraising, for access and creating like access to like specialized communities online. They use it in gaming. They use it in so many different ways. Like in every day, there's sort of like a new thing. And one of the newer things that is starting to emerge is this idea of DAO ownership. When I'll explain that in a minute, but essentially a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, which is basically, think of it as like a company that doesn't have a person who organized that company and is the president of that company, but it's really just a company that is a collection of smart contracts, and that you can buy into this company and vote based on your percentage of ownership or what type of token you buy. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but it's essentially a decentralized organization where it's just owned by all of the people who own that token. And famously, back in 2015, there was a project called the DAO that just went down in an absolute blaze of glory. It was a pretty huge failure that I participated in, and many other people early on, where it was trying to create this new thing, and that would be this company that would invest in projects in the crypto space, and it was supposed to be this amazing thing, and then it got hacked. And then there were a bunch of political problems, and so it all kind of shut down. And that's sort of a story for another day. And then later on, the SEC said, yeah, that was probably an unregistered security as well. So the DAO concept has not really taken off quite yet, but there are folks within the NFT community that are trying to kind of like bring that back. So one example of like digital art is this creator Beeple, who was working on sort of like an image a day for a period of years, and he basically created this like intricate collage of all of his images, and they auctioned it off at Christie's, and a guy in Singapore who goes by Metakovan bought that for $69 million. And really what he bought was the actual JPEG and the right to display it, but he did not receive the copyright in the work, which was retained by Beeple. And you can see I have a copyright notice on here that says copyright Beeple, because Beeple still owns the copyright to this. And so even though he bought this actual file and he has again that digital deed that shows that he owns the file, he really is limited in what he can do with it. And so what they're trying to do is create sort of this digital museum where this will be displayed in the quote unquote metaverse. And so, yeah, it's just kind of a crazy example of what people will do. This idea of collectibles is still kind of, continuing to go along, and NBA Top Shot is sort of like an example of like a large, sporting association that is taking video clips and creating like limited series of these video clips and then selling them all within sort of like a contained ecosystem where you can go and buy these clips or open like a pack of clips and then display them in your own sort of personal gallery. And again, the NBA is not giving you the right to monetize or use these clips really anywhere except for within the community. And I can show you in a minute in our demo what that looks like. Fundraising, this is another use that I kind of mentioned. One of the big projects that was put out there by Ashton Kutcher, some other actors, and Vitalik Buterin, who is the founder of Ethereum, was this project called Stoner Cats, which is a cartoon. And they sold sort of a limited number of these different cats to raise money for this project. And they used it as a way to bootstrap like a new TV show. And you can see that, you get the Stoner Cat NFT, the rights to the digital image, and then you also get like some exclusive content. So that's one way that it's been used for fundraising. This idea of like community access is becoming more and more prominent. So like probably one of the bigger examples of that is the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is this very sort of exclusive community now because these things are selling for $100,000+. But again, these were for some of these projects. It's just the algorithmic art. But when you mint one of these tokens, you all of a sudden gain access to some community areas. Also now some of the folks who hold Bored Ape NFTs are like launching other NFTs, and they're giving holders of the Bored Ape NFT early access to their new NFT project. So it can go in a lot of ways. Here's another just really random example, Oddball Club. And I'll show you, I'm trying to show you some examples of things that I actually have so that I'm not endorsing any of these. I do not own a Bored Ape because that's really expensive. Oddball Club is really cheap. So I bought one of those, again, just to show you all. But again, the idea with this one is just to kind of create this sort of like community and they have sort of a vision, and I can kind of show that to you. DAO membership. So a project that is not yet released, but I think is going to be released in the next couple weeks, is called King's NFT. Where it's basically these lion heads and they're dressed up in different ways. But the goal of this NFT is they want to buy an actual soccer team. And if you join like their Discord page, you can kind of hear a little bit about their plans that they want to try to find sort of like a low level soccer team, purchase it, and allow the holders of the NFT to like vote on decisions that happen with the team. Now, I don't know how low, I don't know what that will look like. And I think there are a lot of legal questions about how that will work. And so I would definitely tread very lightly and be very wary. But I think it's a very interesting and ambitious project. Not one that I may invest in myself, but I'm not giving any investment advice. Also, this is not legal advice either. Just wanted to make that disclaimer. But I think it's a very, very interesting project. But just to give you an example of the types of things that people are using NFTs for. And I think that there's so many more, and I'll try to give you some more examples, but really just trying to give you a sense of how expansive this area is becoming, of sort of taking this idea of rare or limited tokens and digital ownership, digital scarcity, and sort of applying it in all these like different ways. So OpenSea is sort of the first marketplace for NFTs. It's the largest marketplace. I believe they're doing about, I think last year or this year, they've done $6 billion worth of transactions on there. And I'm going to give you a quick tour of that and a couple of other places. They're again, we're still kind of in the Ethereum world, and most of these projects have been within the Ethereum blockchain. And OpenSea actually has Ethereum and Polygon, which is another blockchain. But I'm going to give you all, again, a quick tour so that you can see what that looks like. So let me share that with you all now. All right, so this is OpenSea. And one of the keys to understanding how all this works is that, again, NFTs are interacting with the Ethereum blockchain. So whenever you want to purchase or sell or mint a new NFT, you have to pay for that with ETH. And so you need to be able to create a transaction. And in order to create a transaction, you need a wallet. And so there are different wallets that you can use that integrate with your browser, but the main one that most people use is called MetaMask. And if you look on my screen, there's a little fox image, and you can just add it. It's an extension, and then it pulls up your Bitcoin wallet. So you can see, here's my wallet here that's got a little bit of ETH in there, and you can kind of see some of my transaction history. But you need to be logged into your MetaMask wallet in order to essentially log into these sites and to interact and to do anything on them. I'll give you a quick view of like my profile. Again, I don't own a lot of NFTs, but here's like an oddball that I bought. Here are some of these crypto strikers that I bought back in 2018. And I don't know what this is. When I logged in, somebody just gave it to me. But you can see, these are sort of like the limited run. And you can see it's like, number 22 of 80. So there are 80 of this specific image that were minted, and they were each given a serial number, and you can kind of see some of the stats, and here's some of the other ones behind there. And they're part of this Wrapped Strikers collection. It started off as Crypto Strikers. They changed to Wrapped Strikers because of some upgrades within Ethereum, and the old project needed to kind of migrate over. Yeah, so it's pretty simple, but you can go here and you can go to, go scroll down, go to the marketplace, and sort of view different images. And then you can, some of them are auctions, some of them are, just for sale. And if you wanted to, purchase one of these, which I'm not going to do right now, you would place a bid, and then it would ask you to authorize that, and you would, use your MetaMask wallet to do that. The other thing that's great about OpenSea is that you can actually use it to create your own NFT pretty easily. Once you're on your profile, you can go to your collections and you can create a collection, and that will allow you to have your own set of NFTs, and then you can also do this here. Just going to expand this window a little bit. Yeah, click create. So here's how you would create an NFT. So you would, again, place whatever file is going to be connected to the NFT here. You would upload it, and you can see it could be a JPEG, a PNG file, an MP4, which is a video, an MP3, which is an audio file. You name it. If you want to put an external link, your description, you can add it to one of your collections, add some more information about it. The supply is, it's a 1 of 1, so that you can't really change that. And then you can select which blockchain you want it to live on, and then you click create, and then you pay a fee, again, through your MetaMask wallet, and that's how you do it. So that is sort of the most basic way to create an NFT, is by essentially doing it on one of these platforms. However, you can also just write, have a developer write a smart contract and launch that directly onto the Ethereum blockchain. And by definition, OpenSea is integrated with Ethereum. So any NFTs that are associated with your Ethereum address will automatically populate on OpenSea. So if you go to a separate site, so I mentioned earlier Oddball, so I'll show you that one really quick. So oddball.club. And this is a lot of times when you're purchasing an NFT that it hasn't been minted yet, you'll go to a website like this, you'll click mint, and you'll click mint again. How many do you want to mint? I'm just going to do one. I don't even think I'm going to go through this, but I'm going to click mint, and you got to see what the workflow looks like. So it automatically pulls up MetaMask. So now what you'll see is the cost of the actual NFT, And then you have to pay a fee to execute the transaction. And that fee is variable based on the traffic, at the amount of people on the network at any given time. So you can see that the fee that they're recommending is just about as much as the NFT itself. And this was a huge issue for both Stoner Cats, Bored Ape Yacht Club, because you're essentially want to get your transaction onto the blockchain. And so since there's a limited number of transactions, the folks that are mining those blocks are looking for, you know, higher fees. So people on the Stoner Cats project kept putting higher and higher and higher and higher fees. And some people paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees only, you know, not to even get a cat. And when you pay that fee, that is not refundable. Okay, so even if you don't get your NFT, that fee is paid to the miners and it's gone. So it's really important that, like, if you're buying an NFT, that you really think through the cost of the fees and the timing of it. Obviously, if you're buying something that's very popular, you know, you don't really have a lot of time and you're sort of at the mercy of, you know, the crowd, the number of people that are trying to get in. But for something like this one, where there's, you know, plenty, you know, of oddballs left, you could probably place a much lower fee, do it late at night when there aren't a lot of people on the network. And you can lower that fee. You can also just set your own fee if you want. You can just say, okay, I want to do like low processing time, or you can actually even go here, just say the max that I'm willing to do is this much. And it'll say, you know, too low, but, you know, that just means it may not get, it may not go through right away. It may take a while for a transaction to go through, but I'm going to reject this because I don't want to buy any more of these. But that's just an example of how you can purchase. And in general, the way that these things go, it's definitely, you have to do the work to like figure out when these things are coming out, to learn about new projects. A lot of it happens on, you know, Discord, where the sort of these like private communities where they're sort of talking about them and you know, giving information about when they're coming out. I'll take you on a quick brief visit of like NBA Topshop, one that I mentioned. This one is on the Flow blockchain. And this is a pretty sort of closed ecosystem, but you can see what you're buying. When you buy stuff, you would buy like a pack, and then that would give you 3 moments, little video clips. So we'll go to my profile here, into my moments. I've bought a couple of packs really just for educational purposes here, but you can kind of see, you know, here's an example of what this looks like. So it's just a little video clip of Malik Monk, who's now on the Lakers, driving to the hole. And you can see that this is a base set of Series 2, and it's one of, you know, 12,000, and it's serial number 10,231. And if you go down here, you can kind of see some statistics about it. And you can even see sort of the sales history. So you can see that the serial number 1 for this one was sold for about $1,600 in July. So, and then here's some other sales of this. And most of the different marketplaces will have like a sales history. So that's NBA Topshop. Again, these are not endorsements. I'm just giving you examples. This one is called One Of, and this is created by, I think this one is backed by Quincy Jones. And so this one is supposed to be for the music space. And this one is based on the Tezos blockchain. And here's an example of a drop where it's the game, and it's some essentially like action figures, some digital action figures, and you can buy a pack for $25. Both NBA Topshop and One Of, and some of the new more sort of like corporate ones, you can use US dollars. You don't really even need cryptocurrency, even though they are technically on the blockchain, whichever blockchain they're on. You can just pay with it with your credit card. So that's a little bit of like a different kind of thing. And so like they're sort of exploring this sort of like fan engagement as an angle, but it's really not something where you can take the NFT like off of the platform and then like sell it on like just like an open marketplace, like a secondary market. Another one is this Axi Infinity, which is like a video game where you can actually like earn some stuff, earn some crypto, and they have some NFTs that are sort of avatars within this. Here's another new one that's kind of coming out next week. It's called the Tokyo 10. Again, these are sort of algorithmically developed NFTs, and the sale starts in 5 days. And there's like citizenship, and they've got different things that they're going to be doing in sort of like a digital city, like sort of like a crypto Tokyo. It's a sort of, again, just like another example of sort of like an interesting project. So these are some examples of NFT projects, but I think the most important concept for you to understand is that, for many of these projects, what you're doing is like you are using your crypto, your Ethereum, your whatever token, and you're purchasing it, and you have to use a wallet to do that. So, and these wallets, you typically have like a password to log in, but they also have like a seed recovery phrase. So if you ever lose your password, you can recover your wallet. And just, again, this is sort of a topic for another day, but it's always important to make sure you have your seed phrase, which is usually like a string of like 12 to 24 words, in a safe place, and that you don't lose it. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. I want to make sure we have time for questions, if anybody has questions at the end here. So that was our OpenSea tour. So let's talk about some of the legal issues. So as a lawyer, you look at these things and it mostly just raises a lot of questions. And because this is such a new area, we have more questions than answers. And so if you are involved in the NFT space, if you're thinking about launching one or thinking about purchasing one, these are some of the things that you may want to consider from the legal side. And again, this is not legal advice. I'm just giving you an overview of some of the legal challenges. And but if you want to have a further conversation about the legal issues related to NFTs, I am more than happy to I'll have my contact information on the last slide. So the first is intellectual property rights. So again, like I said, what are you actually getting? So when you purchase an NFT, it's really important that you ask yourself and you go find out what it is you're getting. What can you use the NFT for? And the way that you determine that typically is by going to the site of the creators of the NFT and reading their terms of service or terms of use or terms and conditions. And so different NFTs give you different types of rights. So for instance, the Bored Ape Yacht Club actually allows you to use your image for non-commercial purposes, i.e. not business or making money, and commercial purposes. And so you could use your NFT to sell your product. You could use it as the spokesperson for your product. You can create what are called derivative works. So you can take that image and change it and mutate it and do whatever you want. You have all of those rights, and those rights are found on the Bored Ape Yacht Club page. So it's really important to understand what rights you have, because you don't automatically get the right to do whatever you want. It's really what rights are transferred to you. And it's really also important that you don't overstep. So one example was Arizona iced tea. And you can sort of research this online, just kind of Google it. But essentially, Arizona iced tea bought an NFT for an advertising campaign. And they went out and they started using it, and Bored Ape Yacht Club got mad because in addition to using the actual image, Arizona was using the name and logo of Bored Ape Yacht Club itself. And so it's important to recognize that those are two separate copyrights. And so Board Ape Yacht Club said, wait, you have the right to use the image, but you can't use our name, Board Ape Yacht Club, or our logo in your advertisements. Now, they didn't end up suing them, but they just sort of, like I said, cried foul. And they basically said, like, you got to stop doing that. So it's really important that you understand specifically what rights that you have and that you don't overstep those rights, because it could get you in some trouble. The second thing is, like, whose permission do you need? A lot of these images and like videos, music files, they contain sometimes multiple copyright owners. So if there's a video clip that has some music playing on it, there are at least 3 different copyrights at play there. There's the copyright in the images itself, so just the video feed. There's a copyright in the sound recording, which is the music that you're listening to. And there's a copyright in the underlying song. So like, think of like a song like Somewhere Over the Rainbow might have, it's a song in of itself, it's a composition, but there may be 20 different versions of it that are recorded. And each of those recorded versions is its own copyright, but the song itself maintains its own individual copyright. So it's sort of a one to many. So in that clip, you have a video copyright, a sound recording copyright, and a composition copyright. And if you're going to sell that, you need the permission of all of those copyright owners. In addition, if you're using the name, the image, or likeness of a real person, you probably need to get their permission as well. So this is one of the big questions that I have with some of the NFTs, and particularly, like you saw, like the crypto strikers. I'm not sure the people who created this project had the permission of those soccer players to use their names and their images, their likenesses, to market their NFT. To essentially, you're buying this person's face and their name on a card. And so, like, if you look at things like actual like baseball cards or trading cards, those are all licensed. You know, they have licensed the person's name and image. So if you're thinking about launching an NFT project of, like, you know, famous rock stars, you know, be very careful before you do that, because you likely need a license to use their name, their image, and their likeness. So again, as you're thinking about NFTs, this is another area that's going to be emerging, where we might start seeing some litigation of people saying, hey, you can't use my face on your NFT. Taxes are always like a big consideration, and nobody likes to talk about taxes, but how are they taxed? You know, typically the way that cryptocurrency works is, you know, when you acquire cryptocurrency, not when you buy it, if you acquire it in some way, that can be a taxable event. If you sell cryptocurrency, that could also be a taxable event. But what about when you mint an NFT, when you've paid for an NFT and you get something of value? How does that work? Is there a taxable event? And there probably is for the person who sold you, so for the creators who sold you that NFT, they probably have income in that moment. And that you as a purchaser, now you have what's called a capital asset, which has a cost basis. So if you bought it for $100 and then later on you sell it for $200, your cost basis was $100. You sold it for $200. And so now the difference of that is your what's called capital gain. And so you might pay capital gains tax. So it's really important to understand that this world, although it is sort of, well, the Wild West, the US government and other governments still view all of this as economic activity that could potentially have tax ramifications. And one of the big questions that I have going forward is that some of these NFTs now are coded in where if you mint the NFT and you're the creator, within the smart contract, every single time that NFT is resold, you get a commission. Well, that commission, I think, is likely a taxable event. And so how do you account for that? How do you how do you make sure that you are continuing to report that as income over the life of the NFT? So again, these are just some considerations to think about. And again, it's a good idea to talk to a CPA or an attorney about this. Finally, the big concern that I have right now is this a security? And this is kind of where the ICO space really was hit hard by the SEC, where they looked at what these ICOs were doing and who were releasing tokens, and they said, well, that is really an investment contract, and therefore it's a security. And this is an open question within NFTs. And it's important to understand that with securities law, it's not about what you call it. It's not about the substance of the thing itself. It's about how does the money flow? And there's a very fact-specific inquiry that needs to happen as these transactions are happening. And that's how the SEC looks at it. They don't care about what you call it. They don't care about how you do it, of like whether you're selling oranges, a digital token, teacups, whatever. What they're looking for are these 4 factors, which is called the Howey test. And Howey was a case in Florida where there was a sale of some orange groves. And I'm not going to go into the history of it, but basically what you need to know is these are the 4 factors. And the SEC will ask these questions. Is there an investment of money? Is it a common enterprise or multiple people investing in it all together? Is there an expectation of profit derived from the effort of others? So like, are you, as the person who's investing the money, taking a passive role, and the activity of others is what's creating the value of the asset that you just bought? And so I think there are a lot of NFTs that the SEC may look at in the future and say, hang on a second, that looks a lot like a security. And if you are a security, you either need to register with us or you need to prove that you fall within one of the exemptions for registration. So I think this is an emerging area, and it's something that you certainly would want to be careful of, and just understand that there's a spectrum, okay? And it's very fact specific. On like one end of the spectrum of like, yeah, this sort of lines up exactly with the Howey test. And as you go further away and down the line, it's sort of like, well, maybe some of these factors are at play here. And so maybe the SEC might consider these things as security. And there are different levels of risk. And so it's really important if you are launching an NFT, particularly if you are building something that will increase the value of the NFT. So maybe like a community, certainly the DAO thing where you're literally essentially buying shares in a company, and you're relying on a group of people to kind of give that company value. I think it's very possible that the SEC could look at some of these and say, hey, this might be a security. So again, it's something to see a lawyer about. That's really the end of my presentation, but I always want to make sure that you understand, watch out for scams. Crypto transactions are one way, and some of these NFT projects there are a lot of scams out there that are sort of pretending to be a project or who don't really have the permissions that they say. And when you send funds, it's a one-way transaction. You typically almost never can get it back. So be very careful as you're going out there. Do your due diligence, research, make sure that you've done everything that you can to make sure that you're actually participating in an authentic minting or that you're buying the real deal. And then, of course, keep your crypto keys private, keep them safe, practice good security with all of that. We've got about 8 minutes left. So I'm happy for anyone who has questions. Feel free you can unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself or raise your hand and I'll unmute you if you're not able to unmute yourself, and I'll answer as many questions as I can for anybody who's out there with questions.
Yeah, I had a quick question. If
Sure.
you start your own sort of NFT collection on OpenSea, what is the best way to market that, whether it be social media or you said like Discord, or how do you get the word out?
Yeah, I think the way that most people are doing it is it's a combination of social media and then building these communities. within like Discord. Obviously, like a website could be a good place to do that as well. So it's some combination of, you know, Twitter, Instagram, plus Discord, and then plus like a website. So like if you look at, let me just go back here to my thing. Like, so like the Tokyo 10, they've got a Discord, they have a Twitter account, and they have like a web page. Like the Kings one that I showed you, like I think they just have like a Twitter, what is it called? Kings Limited, there it is. They just have like a Twitter. And if you go to their link tree, I think it's literally just Twitter, Discord, and Instagram. So like they don't even have a website yet. So like I would definitely say like having a website is like a really good thing in terms of like, you know, showing that it's like a real project, it's got real backers behind it. But in terms of like building the community, I think a lot of that happens on Twitter and within Discord. I will say that some of these projects, they use things like a pre-sale as well to sort of incentivize people to share it. So like if you have, you know, if you share it a certain number of times, you can be sort of whitelisted for a pre-sale, which means that you can then provide like your Ethereum address so you get early access. And so that can be a way to sort of incentivize people to like share it with other people if they want to get access. But it's interesting because there's so many of these things coming online right now, and they're all different shapes and sizes. And so it's a fairly, I would say, a fairly competitive space right now, because there are so many projects out there and it's hard to sort of like stand out. So I think a lot of it is, you know, finding, you know, maybe trying to find like a community of like of affinity. You know, it depends on the quality of the artwork that you're making, you know, how interesting it is. There's a lot of different factors, but in terms of like community building, yeah, where I've seen it mostly is through Twitter and Discord, probably is the biggest places.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Alex, this is Austin on Morgan's Computer.
Hey.
I missed part of the fees concept.
Sure.
NFT. So if you own an NFT, is there an ongoing cost to holding that NFT?
No.
Okay. All right.
There is not. Typically, like when you're selling one, I think with like OpenSea, if you want to list it for sale, you may have to pay a fee. Like I know for the Wrap Strikers, for some reason they just allow me to pay one fee and then I can sort of like list all of these for free. I haven't tried to like list this guy. Let me see what happens if I try to sell this.
So it's more of like a transaction based, either on the buy.
Yeah, exactly. Like let's say I want to sell this guy for like 0.01 ETH. You can sort of select how long, you can make a custom range. You can reserve it for a specific buyer, and then like OpenSea takes like a little transaction fee here, and then you can see there's a creator royalty as well. So the folks who put this out have a royalty. So you click complete the listing. I think it's going to ask me, yeah, to approve it. So it's a pretty low fee right now to throw that onto. I don't know if there'll be like if I take it down, if they'll make me pay that fee again. It's possible, but I for some reason I know that with the Wrap Strikers, I just paid like one fee for that, and then I was able to list them all sort of however I've listed them many times at many different prices to try to like figure out like how much to sell them for.
Got it. Perfect.
But just holding them, you don't have any. There's no fee.
Cool.
Yeah. Other questions?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do most artists keep their copyright when they sell their artwork as an NFT or with an NFT?
I think so. I mean, honestly, I kind of think so. You know, I don't see. I don't know. I mean, I think that it's possible that they might give the copyright away. I don't know why they would. I think it's really important if you're an artist to be very clear about what you're giving away. But essentially, there's not really a whole lot of reason to give the actual copyright away, because typically what they'll do is they'll give you like a license. So basically it's sort of like you have like a worldwide, non-exclusive, perpetual license for commercial and non-commercial use. And it just sort of, gives you essentially all the rights that you would need without actually transferring the copyright itself. And there are legal standards for like how a copyright can be transferred, but it has to be like in a written agreement. Like it has to be a written thing. You can't just do it like orally or simply by like purchasing like a print of a piece of artwork. So, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good question, and I think there's probably like some variety in there. But I think for like some of the more rare pieces that I've seen, it has not included a copyright.
Yeah, that kind of stuck out to me. Like, I feel like owning the copyright is more valuable unless like one of these NFTs, take off and sell for crazy amounts of money. So
yeah, I mean, and again, though, I mean, like I think it depends on what you're able to do. I mean, like let's go over to the Bored Ape Yacht Club.
like, couldn't you buy the copyright and then make an NFT from that, and then just sell that?
Buy the copyright. Yeah, you could. Yeah, like if you purchase a copyrighted work, and then you own the copyright, then yes, now you have the right to like reproduce it, to exploit it however you want. So, and if you don't own the copyright, you don't have the right. Vice versa, you can't just go out and like create like an NFT based on like the Mona Lisa, like I mean, maybe, I don't know, that might be public domain at this point, but you can see here like on the terms of like, so Bored Ape, you have personal use and then you have commercial use. So it's like subject to your compliance, you can have an unlimited worldwide license to use, copy, display the purchased art for the purpose of creating derivative works. So again, you can like change it. To produce and sell merchandise. You can put it on, you can own a marketplace for these things, third-party website. You have a lot, earning revenue from any of the foregoing. So, but you can see it does not transfer the copyright in any way. So, yeah, it's an interesting, like I said, it's a very interesting question. And I think it will ultimately empower artists though. And I love the idea of sort of like these like downstream sources of revenue. And when you think about art in particular, time is like such an element with the value. And over time, like pieces of art, increase in value. And not only that, when you think about it from like a legacy perspective, if you're an artist and you sell a piece of art at a gallery and you die, that piece of art might drastically increase in price, but your family, your heirs will never see a penny of that, and neither will you. But this idea of being able to program in like a forever commission means that like your heirs after you die could benefit from that increase in value over time for theoretically generations. So I think that's a very, very exciting prospect that really, I think, gives the folks who created these works so much more value for what they do, and it allows like their families to really benefit from their work. So I'm really excited about that part of it for creators. But I think that like, for musicians, there's a lot of possibilities of like creating like exclusive content, exclusive experiences, sort of basically like a new type of fan club where, you can create this like community and you give your fans an opportunity. Like, if you think about holders of an NFT can have like access to like a special concert, then those NFTs essentially become like very expensive tickets to get in. And so like you sort of give back to your fans in that way that they can also like benefit in your success. So I think there's a lot of like, and I think we're just kind of scratching the surface with a lot of these ideas. I think what's really important though again, if you're thinking about doing like a project, is to like make sure you talk to someone on the legal side of things so that you can be aware of like the potential risks, if any, to make sure that the language that you're using is correct, that you're conveying the proper rights, you're not doing anything that you shouldn't, because there are quite a few little legal tricks here. So I think we're kind of out of time, and I hope that's been helpful. Here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out if y'all have any questions, if you want to talk more about this, if you have ideas. And I'm getting more and more people that are coming into the office with ideas. I talked to some guys who are in the cannabis space that are looking to do something, someone else in the music space. Like, these things are, over the next 6 months to a year, more and more of these are going to come online in new and exciting ways. So it's a very cool area of crypto right now, and I'm excited to kind of see where it goes. And hopefully on the legal side, the US regulators won't step in and just sort of like crush it, because I think that's the real risk to all of these projects is, what is the regulation going to look like 6 months to a year from now? And that's what I've been trying to advise my clients about, of like, hey, look, here's how, things might play out, and here's how you should be careful. Because I saw this with the last cycle, because it was a very similar thing, and ICOs were sort of the big thing. And then, regulation came in and really kind of, was a wet blanket on the space. So again, hopefully this has been helpful, and I'm excited to talk more about this in the future. So stay tuned. We may be putting out more seminars about this in the future, and more content in general. But thanks again for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you soon.